Thank you for bearing with us so far. I promise this is the last presentation that we've got for you. We'll be talking about paid media automation and how robots will take over and such. So nothing can stop automation. Like, I think we all agree on that. It holds true for paid media as well. Obviously, frustrations remain still, as we can see in that last kind of picture. But paid media automation is here, and we should be utilizing it across our paid media campaigns. So why do we need paid media automation? I think Luke touched on it briefly. Paid media is difficult. Every incremental dollar, making that work is difficult. So, if you invest $100, it's probably easy to get $100 or $200 back, or whatever your target is, but the next 100 is going to get more difficult, and so on. So you need everything that you can do, including things like CRO and what Peter touched on, to make sure that your campaigns are performing optimally. There's a lot going on in paid media. You can track paid media, which is obviously great, and you get all this information, and all these informations you have to analyze as well. So there is that's the flip side of actually working in paid media. You get a lot of data, but then this data becomes difficult to manage as well. If you're working in a paid media environment, you might have looked at keywords. Audiences are available across all platforms, demographics, devices, and a whole heap of other metrics and things, segments that you have to look at. It's almost impossible to manage all this manually. You cannot do it. It's impossible for a single person to look at all this data, and that's why we need automation. All the platforms or most of the platforms that we worked on or provide paid media services, they use something of it like a auction model or a bidding model, as Peter touched on it briefly. So you can bid on keywords and audiences and so on, and create your campaigns accordingly. All these platforms offer certain bidding algorithms or bid strategies, and that's what we'll be focusing on, which is how you can automate your campaigns and hopefully improve performance. And obviously all these bid strategies use the good stuff, AI, machine learning. Obviously no presentation is complete these days without mentioning AI, so obviously I had to put it in there. So let's talk about a brief history of these bidding strategies. So if you asked us maybe 3 or 4 years ago, bid strategies weren't probably the preferred way to manage a campaign because they weren't that good. Manual intervention or manually managing the campaigns was almost as effective, if not, better than what bidding strategies provided. But over time, things have changed. The way the platforms work changed. The amount of data that's available or has become available for these bid strategies to learn has changed. So there's a big push for all these platforms towards consolidation as well, which we are seeing. So Facebook, Google Ads, and such, they're using consolidation as a method to feed more data to these bidding algorithms, basically, and hence they're getting better. And we are at a stage where bidding strategies are consistently outperforming manual strategies now. So it's definitely true for most of our clients, I'd say, especially clients that have a larger scale. Obviously, you can't manage all the things that we spoke about manually, but also the performance of the bid strategies across bigger clients is certainly better. So what are the options available? So this is a pretty generalistic view of what's available across different platforms in terms of bid strategies. Most of these platforms provide bid strategies or recommend bid strategies based on your objectives. So these objectives are broadly categorized as awareness, traffic, conversions, and ROAS, return on ad spend. And within each of these categories or each of these objectives, you'd find whatever options are available within the platforms. These options like target impression shares available in Google Ads might be called something else in another platform. So if your objective is conversions, you want to drive maximum amount of conversions, you might want to opt for either maximize conversions bid strategy or a target cost per acquisition type bid strategy. So it's important to analyze what your objective is and then work through the different options that are available in whatever platform you're in, and then select a bid strategy that works. What's the process of implementing these bid strategies? So generally speaking, this is what you'd probably do. First step is always to set up conversion tracking. If you don't have conversion tracking set up, we definitely recommend setting up some kind of a proxy for your conversions. So for example, if you don't have anything, you're a brochure web website, just want traffic to your website. So maybe you can set up a conversion for a particular landing page that's important to you and optimize your campaigns towards that. We say that because conversion focused and revenue focused bid strategies tend to work better than just open-ended bid strategies that target awareness or traffic, for example. Once you've set up your conversion tracking, give some time to collect data. The data requirements for these bid strategies to work has reduced quite a lot because over time they've learned to be almost self-sufficient. So you don't really need that much data, but 3 to 4 weeks of historical data is something that is a bare minimum that we recommend. And then moving on to implementing the relevant bid strategy. So obviously it's going to be based on your objective. So if your objective is ROAS, then maximize revenue or something like that would be the bid strategy that you'd hopefully go for. Once you implement this bid strategy across all these platforms, the system will take the bid strategy into what's called a learning period. So this learning period can last anywhere between 5 and 7 days. So you have to be a bit patient during that learning period, let the bid strategy learn, and then just hopefully it comes out of that learning period after that time period. Once the bid strategy is running, obviously don't just let it run. You have to analyze performance. So most of the platforms that provide bid strategies will provide some sort of recommendations and so on. And you do need to look at them regularly and work out if there's any changes that you need to make. And that's it. So once you've set it up, analyze performance, and then make any changes necessary. There's some best practices that you should be following. Some of them we've already spoken about, but reiterating again. Obviously select a bid strategy to match your objective. If your objective is return on ad spend or revenue type objective, you should be looking at implementing a strategy that does that. Use conversion tracking again. This is pretty important because, as I said, the conversion focused bid strategies do tend to work better. So the more conversion focused data that you can provide to a bid strategy, the better the performance will be, hopefully. This is something that all of us struggle with, clients struggle with, and we struggle with as well. Once you've implemented the bid strategy, the performance will fluctuate, usually towards the worst for a certain period. But then over time, it averages out and it does outperform the manual intervention side of things. So there is a requirement for everyone to be patient and let the bid strategy or the algorithms do its thing. Don't make too many manual interventions. Once you've selected or once you've decided that I want the algorithm to take over and just do things, if you start making too many interventions, like changing keywords at a scale and so on in a campaign, you run the risk of the bid strategy going back into the learning period, and then that means you have to wait another 7 days and then another 7 days for performance to fluctuate, and you've kind of lost ground, probably 2 weeks worth of data and performance. As I said, it's not a set and forget solution, so you can't just let it run wild. You have to come into the platforms and check what it's doing. As I said, some of these systems are very good to a level where they'll recommend what the target should be. So for example, if you selected a target cost per acquisition type bid strategy and your target was 500, and the bid strategy worked out that it can provide you conversions at 450. It will tell you that. It will say you can get these many conversions at 450, and you should look at it and change accordingly. And not everything can be automated, so I'm definitely suspect of this behavior. Not all campaigns are prime candidates for using a bid strategy, even though the data requirements are very limited these days. You can run a bid strategy on very limited data, but if you're running a burst for 2 weeks, there's no point running a bid strategy on that, because by the time the bid strategy learns, your campaign will finish. There are certain campaigns that there is no way to have any kind of conversion data available at all, and for those cases as well, it might not be very efficient to run a bid strategy, and where manual will supersede bidding strategies. And I believe that is the end. Thank you very much for your time. Obviously, for all your digital needs, come to Indago Digital.